Hey, how's it going guys? It's Seth from me, and today we're going to be installing the aerofabb front splitter for the Mark 7 Golf R. So what I have in front of me is the aerofabb front splitter. This is basically the street edition splitter. It's the second version and it applies to the Mark 7 Golf R. There are multiple types of front splitters that you can get. Some of them are universal, where they essentially just put them on and you kind of even have to cut out the shape and then you have to find your own mounting points and do it your own way. And then there's the really high-end front splitters, which basically attach to the chassis and are super rigid, essentially because you're not attaching to any of the body parts, you're attaching directly to the chassis of the car. It's meant for really high-speed track use. And this version from aerofabb is basically a street edition splitter, which is kind of like a hybrid between the two. And Rich over at aerofabb was nice enough to send this out for us so that I could show you how to install it as well as do a review of it. I will be doing a track day in a couple of weeks, so we'll see how this front splitter actually holds up to the high speeds. One of the more unique things about this splitter is that it actually has something called an Aero brace. So this is actually something that was designed by aerofabb because they saw a niche market where essentially there were splitters that were for the Mark 7 Golf R that were just being attached to the splash guard. And you guys may or may not know, but the splash guard is actually a piece that's quite flimsy. And so a lot of the reports of people who had these different splitters for the Mark 7 Golf R, a big problem with them was that they were tearing off, they were really easy to get damaged. And so aerofabb is basically designing this product from the ground up, which allows for the mounting points to be in more secure locations. And then the Aero brace is actually a special piece of product from them that will actually stabilize and make sure that the mounting points are secure and that the load is evenly distributed among all the mounting points, basically making for a very stable splitter. All right, so let's open this up and take a look at what's inside. I know that aerofabb takes the time to really make the packaging really nice, so I want to see how well packaged it is. So it looks like they included some vinyl stickers. Packaging really is pretty nice. The outside had the fragile. Sorry for the wind, it's kind of windy today, but we'll make do. So one of the really cool things is that it comes with all the hardware needed to mount this. And for what I remember, the first edition of this front splitter was made from a different material. This material can bend, it won't crack, and it'll basically sustain and be more durable. Here we have colored instructions, which is really nice. So we'll take a look through that in just a second. Let's take out the main splitter. One of the coolest parts of this particular splitter, I know Rich spent a lot of time with this badging in the front, and it's actually recessed into the splitter so that it doesn't stick up and basically affect aerodynamics in any way. And this material is a plastic, I believe it's an ABS material, and it seems really durable. So let me open up this last part, which looks like in the bottom over here is the hardware, and it is. And the packaging is really nice. There are two pieces of wood right here, which basically makes sure that the damage is done to the wood and not to the actual splitter itself. So let's take out the hardware. The only thing you'll need besides the hardware is obviously some sort of drill to be able to drill for the mounting points. And then you'll also need some anti-seize to make sure that the stainless hardware actually doesn't seize up on you. If we take a look at the splitter, it seems to be about a 1/4 inch thick. And for this piece of badging right here, which looks really cool, it has a sticker on top of it, so I'll take that off after the installation is done. And I think what's really cool about it is sometimes with certain companies, they like to make it really showing off the brand. This one is pretty subtle, and I like that because I don't necessarily like huge branding on the outside of my car. So what I'm going to do now is basically put my car up on ramps so that it's easier to access the bottom of this car, and we'll start installing. Okay, so first step is really simple. It's basically the first part that helps you align the splitter to exactly where it needs to go. It uses the factory mounting points, which is a T25 screw nut over here, the one that's closest to the wheel, which is this one. So I'm just gonna undo it on this side as well as the other side. All right, once you undo both sides, you basically line up the splitter and retighten these bolts, and you don't have to worry about whether or not the location is right because of where you're drilling. All right, that's one side. And after this step, once you push this up, you'll be able to see all the 14 holes that you actually have to drill with a 1/4-inch drill bit, which I'm gonna go get right now. All right, so this is kind of the point of no return. We are going to drill the 14 holes. Since they're already aligned by the factory bolts, we know they're in the right spot. We have 14 holes to drill, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and then 2 on the side where the aero brace doesn't hit. So we're gonna push this up and start drilling the holes. All right, so that is all 14 holes. Pretty nice and easy. A little scary to be drilling holes into your bumper and splash guard, but this actually holds onto the front here, not the splash guard, so that actually makes it pretty nice and easy. All right, let's read the next steps. So it looks like I missed the biggest part of this in the beginning. It basically says to remove the front bumper. So I'm happy to do that. I just didn't think I would have to. But since I have to remove the front bumper in order to access this space right here, it's best if I just take the time to actually do that. They're removed with T25 Torx bits, so. Okay, so it looks like upon further inspection, I actually don't have to take off the front bumper. If you go with me underneath the car, you'll be able to see. So this is the bottom on the left side, and there's a couple of bolts, T25 right here, in the middle right here, and then on the right over here. Sorry it's so close, but not much space. But basically, if you take out those 3, you'll be able to access behind there. You'll see it right over there. So that's basically being able to access the top. And so I'm going to try my best to install this without actually removing the front bumper. And it looks like I'll be able to even get to the ones on the side over here because I took off some of the more screws. Sorry for the bad quality video here, but that's kind of all the space that I have. So this is the original screw for lining up the splitter. And then this screw is probably going to be the hardest because let's see if I could even reach back there. It'll be a tight fit, but I'll work on that one last. But I'm gonna do all these other ones, which I should be able to reach behind now that I've been able to lower the bottom of the front bumper. So I'm gonna continue installing from here. All right, so it's basically 50mm bolt, fender washer, through the splitter, this 3/4-inch spacer, and let me see if there's another fender washer. Nope. So it goes through the bumper like that. And then from the other side, I will thread this locking nut by hand. All right. So I'm going to do this for all 10 of them.
right, this part is definitely a lot tighter than I would like, but if I'm able to reach back there with my hands, then most people should be able to. All right, everything's just kind of hand tightened right now, but I'm gonna do the same thing for the other side.
But now it's time to install the Aero brace, which basically gives this all the rigidity that it could possibly need for track use. Okay, so, all right, this part's probably gonna be the hardest part for me because the bumper is still on, but I'm gonna pull this down and see if I could slide this Aero brace in to where it needs to go. All right, so far so good. Let's see. It's probably gonna be something like this, and I just have to slip it in. I just have to continue to slide this forward until the teeth line up. So, keep going. Now that I've slid this as far forward as it goes, I have to install the final spacers, as well as the final fender washers and locking nuts. All right, so I have to install these 3/16 spacers as well as the fender washers now. So what I'm doing now is basically kind of like loosening these 50mm bolts to give myself some space to throw the fender washer, the spacer, and then the locking nut, which or another fender washer, and then the locking nut that goes on top of the Aero brace. I have one unit installed, which is the further one in the back right here. And the order of parts basically goes 50mm bolt, a fender washer, the splitter, a spacer, the bumper, a fender washer, a spacer, a fender washer, the Aero brace, a fender washer, and a nylon lock nut. When this is all done, I'm basically able to get less than the number of threads that are shown here, probably like 3 or 4 threads, and just put a little bit of anti-seize at the end right over here, and then I'm gonna basically tighten this up after I've done all 10 tightened by hand. So this is gonna kind of be a time lapse, but we'll see how long it takes to actually install all of them. So I looked at my timestamp, and it basically took me 40 minutes in order to get all those spacers, fender washers, nuts and bolts in. And now I just have to tighten everything down and I'll be done with the install. But if you know how to take the front bumper off, or you know, you want to follow directions like most of us should do, I think that taking off the front bumper will make this job a heck of a lot easier. But just, I guess, for those of you guys who think about installing this who aren't comfortable removing your front bumper because of all the sensors and all this other stuff, or whatever the reason may be, you can install this without actually removing your front bumper, as long as you remove three T25 bolts at the bottom of the actual fender. So now what I'm going to do is just tighten everything up, and then I'll show you the final product. All right, so everything's tightened on this. It is really sturdy. All I have to do is reinstall the splash guard and everything, but this is definitely a solid product that is not going anywhere when I go on a track, and looks pretty great too. So let me reinstall everything, bring the car off the ramps, and then I'll take off this final peeling sticker and show you guys the final product on my dirty car. Now that it's all done, I think it's appropriate to first of all thank aerofabb, and second of all take off this cover sticker. Hey, awesome. Beautiful badging by aerofabb, nice and flush. And let's take a step back and see how it looks. Great, nice and subtle. Love it. Let's take a look from the side. Oh man, that was actually a harder job to install, but really because of my fault, I decided it was a good idea to keep the bumper on for the install, but it doesn't make it harder per se to it's only a only a quarter inch right over there. It's only a quarter inch down. So the front, however, is about a good inch lower, I guess, than it used to be. Looks great. Let's look at it from a low angle in the front, and you could see exactly how it works. Basically, it directs air now more underneath the car. Whether or not this is actually functional remains to be seen. My guess is that it's not necessarily the most functional, but aesthetically, I think it looks great. So, yeah. So to end the video with the sun behind my face, you can't really see me, but to end this video, I want to once again say thank you to aerofabb. Thank you to Rich for designing such a wonderful product, and we're gonna see at the track whether or not it holds up. My guess is that it will. So stay tuned for that. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed already, and that's basically it for today's video. So if you guys have any questions or concerns, please leave it in the comments below. I'm Zed for me. I'll see you guys in the next one.